So, what does DC Blox, TIRRC, and John Ingram have to do with each other? Now, John Ingram owns this little stadium, and that stadium is parked right next to this historic racetrack in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, this man, Cody Sledge, was the council person during the time this man got his soccer stadium approved to be built. Now, what was supposed to happen also, the racetrack was supposed to be updated long before the soccer stadium came into the mix, which included in the city charter is that the city has to have auto racing. It's historic after all, over 100 years old. Now, Kobe did some things which postponed the promises made to the racetrack people, which that postponement has caused consequences which are still being felt today. One of those things is that he sued the state government to stop them from helping the racetrack folk, along with two other council members. One of them was this person, who's a part of an organization called TIRRC, but we'll get back to that in a moment. Now, this man said he'd be a good neighbor and play fair and allow the racetrack to exist. But as of now, that's not what's happening. He currently is pushing a charter amendment that would get rid of the racetrack and turn it into affordable housing and connected park space. We all can get behind that, right? But what he's saying is that some organizations have been reaching out to him obsessively, trying to get him to help them stop this racetrack from expanding and being updated as they were promised. And because he has such a good heart, he can't resist. He can't just ignore the outcry and the public pressure that wants him to get involved. And so he says, over the past few weeks, we've been repeatedly asked to join neighbors in numerous community organizations that have expressed support for the fairgrounds, flea market, fair, and other events while strongly opposing racing, especially an expansion of it. Now, doing some digging about historic racetracks, you'll find that usually the closure of racetracks is driven by real estate developers and corporate owners rather than activist grassroots groups. So, who are the activist groups organization Ingram speaks of? Well, one of them is by a man named Mike Kopp, who is a founding board member of Fairgrounds Preservation Partners. It's a 501c3 nonprofit focused on preserving the Nashville Fairgrounds legacy of community green space and getting rid of the racetrack as well, which according to me, I would say is a part of the legacy of the fairgrounds, but what do I know? Now, looking into Mike, you realize he has a bit of a background in activism. He's fought to preserve RCA on Music Row, and we all can get behind that. And he has a long history in politics. See, check out his LinkedIn. Wait, what is that? He worked as a partner for the Ingram group? Now, where have we heard that name before? Okay, next. Shay Sapp with South Nashville Action People. Now, Shay has written an op-ed opposing the deal for using state bonds and for other reasons. But what's interesting about Shay is he has no issue with using state money for his company's benefit. $3 million in tax incentives for Allison Bernstein? That don't sound very grassroots to me. Now this is where the sirens get louder. So, have you heard of something called astroturfing? I actually wrote about it in one of my blogs. And it's a concept I learned about in a TV show called Brain Dead. I highly recommend it. Wheatus created a grassroots organization called the One-Wayers. In politics, creating a fake organization that is labeled as grassroots, implying that it was created by just everyday ordinary folks, is called astroturfing. And a lot of times it just pop up out of nowhere, galvanizing the public to react. Cue Lindsay Harris. Now, Lindsay runs a little organization called Sledge Strategies. Where have we heard that name before, Sledge? Well, Lindsay's married to Cody Sledge. They happen to not have the same last name in public. Might be a little easier that way in this type of work. Now, Lindsay has a long track record in Nashville. She actually, funny enough, co-founded an organization called TIRRC. And she happens to have a long list of other orgs she happens to be behind. For instance, there's this little organization called People 3 that's on her list of clients, and their client happens to be the Ingram group. And then there's this little organization called Stand Up for Nashville. Now, where have we seen that before? Oh, they were created in response to the soccer deal. Oh, and nobody knows where they get their money from.
And it's all connected is what we were seeing.
You're right. It is all connected. Kind of how when TIRRC was trying to get over $700,000 of taxpayer-funded money, and all this heat started dropping on them. Then, out of nowhere, these grassroots orgs and folks started to pop up. Now, cue Fisk. Around mid-May, Fisk University dropped some information, but people were pretty quiet until you hit mid-June. TIRRC still fighting for their money. Then out of nowhere, this press conference drops. Chaos ensues. I mean, that's all we're talking about. Even Senator Blackburn has moved her focus. And then they get their money. But no, wait. Did you use black people, poor people, the public to get your friends some money? The same friends putting all these people into office? Now, how does DC Blox fit into all of this? The great digital scheme. Well, the land. Because that's what's going to save us, right? Market Street, who recently sold their land to DC Blox after protesters begged them not to. And who's Market Street? There's that name again, Ingram. So the very people funding the pro sides are also funding the opposition, which they are the opposition. I mean, wow. You know, this would not be so bad if they didn't use something really sacred and dear to me. The black community, the poor community, the oppressed community. They use these poor communities that are powerless. They do these mind games, these tricks. They go in and extract resources, wealth, the money, their payroll taxes, where they shop, their property taxes, and they send that money somewhere else. They don't put in grocery stores, which how many grocery stores we could have funded in the last couple of years with $1.3 million. How many people we could have sent into schools to read to kids to uplift the literacy rate. You take money out of poor black folk to subsidize your friends. You don't come with no solution, no bills, no nothing, but you have used them at every step of the way to get your way. And I'm sick and I'm tired of it. And this is only the beginning. Politics should be about solving problems and resolving disputes, not aggravating divisions, hoping that conflicts between different groups of Americans can be exploited election after election for immediate political gain.